Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 110, recording on Friday, September 5th. With the Athletics, Kevin Fishbain, he covers the Bears and has for a long time in Chicago. And for us at the Athletic, he does a phenomenal job. We've had him on the podcast before. And we got into everything. I mean, it was Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. It's the Bears O-line. It's the Bears skill group. It's running backs and pass protection. It's their defensive line. Jalen Johnson's availability at cornerback. I mean, really every aspect of this game that you can possibly break down. I'd like to think we covered most of it. And if there's more we did not cover, you'll probably hear me talk about it on 9 to noon on Friday on KFAN. I'm co-hosting the Friday Football Feast with Paul Allen all year at Buffalo Wild Wings everywhere, and cannot wait to be a part of that. It's going to be very, very fun. This show, we usually do it 2 times a week. We've done it 3 times this week because it's game week and we're pumped, and I got nothing else to do but look at the clock, so why not record a podcast to give you guys things to listen to over the weekend. We're going to do a post-game pod on the morning after the game each week, and then an episode or 2 over the season late in the week. Can't wait to do that. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. If you don't know about it, they are a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They've got branches all over the place, Lino Lakes. There's a branch on Washington run by really good people, and they care about the Minnesota community. They are fans of the Vikings, so please go check them out. Their information is in the description below. I write for The Athletic, multiple stories all week, something on Friday on Ben Johnson versus Brian Flores, and then we'll come back on Monday with the story I've been working on for a while, so stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Here is our conversation with Kevin Fishbain of The Athletic. All right, Kevin, welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. Numerous time guest at this point. How are you?
Where do I rank among non-Minnesota guests?
You're definitely high. I mean, it depends. Like, we had Mina Kimes on the show, so, I mean, I don't know.
I didn't ask what I ranked in terms of quality. I was... Quality of analysis is more how many times. Like, has anybody from not Minnesota been on as many times as me?
Probably not.
Aha.
And I don't know
Take
if that's
that, Mina.
just, yeah, but I just don't know if that might just be your easy accessibility. I mean, we text probably more than 2 writers who do this job every day should, but good
Shout
to
out
have
Mina
you.
Kimes, future guest on Breaking In with Kevin Fishbain, my podcast. Go check that out on all your audio platforms. Breaking In with Kevin Fishbain. I'm also on YouTube. You can subscribe there. Continue, Alec.
Great job, Kevin. That's phenomenal. And he's had Joe Buck on his podcast and Mike Tirico.
Joe Buck, not yet. Careful with that. Careful.
Sorry. Look, I'm ahead. Ian Rappaport you've had on your podcast.
That episode hasn't run yet. This is just giving it all away.
This is what we do on the Alec Lewis Show. We actually break news.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, though, because for the Vikings fans who are listening, Joe Buck is a guest on my podcast. That episode will be out Monday, first thing. So as you're getting ready for Bears-Vikings and you want to know more about the guy who is calling the game, Breaking In with Kevin Fishbain, I got Joe Buck on. He was incredible.
Looking
Check
forward
that
to
out.
it. All right, we're going to talk about the Vikings and the Bears because you cover the Bears and I cover the Vikings. And we're going to start with Jalen Johnson, who is a cornerback for the Bears. He's been very good over the last few years, especially when the Vikings have played them. I have had many conversations with people here internally who have praised him and his abilities. He has had an injury. What is his situation? And who fills in if he's not playing? Break it down for us, Mr. Breaking In.
So he did practice Wednesday for the first time all summer. We found out that the mysterious injury was a groin injury that he suffered while training for training camp. And I mean, it's turned out to be a 6+ week injury, which is, I mean, think about that, Alec, like if a guy misses all of training camp, but doesn't miss any games, it's like, okay. But like if a guy missed 6 games in the season, 7, it should be 7 games. If like that's a massive, massive injury that he had. So I just don't know what to expect from him. He's going to do everything he can to be ready to go. But if they don't, if they don't give him the green light, or I would certainly expect him to be at least on a pitch count. And I would be very nervous about asking him to shadow Justin Jefferson after having not played football for all this time. So I think a lot of this is going to be, how did he do in the Wednesday practice? How is he going to do in the Friday practice? Then they'll have the Saturday walkthrough. And then, he's going to probably do some warm-ups Monday night. It's a major, major storyline. Now, I know Justin Jefferson's not 100% either right now.
Yeah, I expect him to be pretty close to ready to go.
He'll be fine. So, Dennis Allen has been open. Like, he was going to move Jalen Johnson. Jalen was going to do what he's always wanted to do, which is travel. He's always wanted to do that since he entered the league. It looked like it was going to happen this year, at least for outside receivers. So if he's not at full strength, if he's not full pitch count, like, that's a big problem. Now, Tyreek Stevenson, I don't think you're going to have him shadow a player, but he would have,
that would be
obviously,
bold.
Yes. Look, Tyreek Stevenson, he is well known for a very giant gaffe that he made in Washington last year. He is one of those guys, Alec. I mean, we've seen this in the league that, like, size, speed, physicality, like the way he plays the game, I think is the way a lot of defense corners want their corners. Like, he's just a no-nonsense guy. But he obviously has not put it all together. He's had some consistency issues, some penalty issues earlier in his career. But he's a good player. And then the other side is Nashawn Wright, somebody that Minnesota people are familiar with. Now, he had a rough preseason game against Kansas City. He's been a practice squad guy mostly, so he's gone up against Justin Jefferson on scout team. I think, Alec, he would be like one of the first corners at 6'4" to start, like, ever. Like, one of the only ones, if he gets the nod. But to his credit, he came into camp and really surprised a lot of people. So that's my long way of saying that if Jalen Johnson's not at full go, like, that is a massive advantage for Justin Jefferson.
Nashawn Wright was acquired by the Vikings in a trade for Andrew Booth Jr., who was a second-round pick in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's first year here, who flamed out very quickly. Nashawn Wright was a cousin of Mekhi Blackman, who the Vikings have since traded to the Colts. But him against Justin Jefferson is not a matchup. It's like, I mean, I don't know. Kind of, it's like be like Soldier Field against US Bank Stadium. It's kind of like no. Okay.
Well, I'll say this: like, the Bears have known for 6+ weeks that this is a possibility. Dennis Allen, good defensive play caller, veteran guy. Al Harris, who's a secondary coach, a very well respected coach. Like, you have to imagine there is a plan. That doesn't mean the plan's going to work because it is Justin Jefferson, but whatever they're going to try, and I think probably a big part of that plan is, how do you rattle JJ McCarthy and make it difficult for him to get the ball to Justin Jefferson? So, like, again, it's not like this has come up by surprise. It's not a midweek injury. So the Bears have had a lot of time to think about how they're going to deal with this. But yeah, you could put there's some kind of saying about, like, plans, well-laid plans. I don't know. You know what the saying is.
I don't know it either. No, I'm 28. I don't know sayings like that were uttered.
I thought maybe Mizzou guy would know, but
no, I will say this. The interesting thing to me is Dennis Allen, over the course of, recent history, like, he plays a lot of man coverage. That's kind of what he does. It's not been a ton of crazy blitzing. I was looking at the numbers the other day.
I found the quote.
Okay, here we go.
Well, it's from Of Mice and Men, and the quote is, "The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry." The idea that even the most carefully thought out plans can fail. That's
phenomenal. Great. It's such an exceptional. I'll probably put that one on my wall or something like that. My question would be, if Dennis Allen goes away from what he's done primarily for a long time, and that is play man coverage, like, how well are they executing in zone coverages? I think the safeties become gigantic in that situation. And then you mentioned it, but, like, the Bears front to me is interesting. They obviously added Grady Jarrett. Dio Odengbo, believe he was played for the Colts last year. Kind of
good, like, pronunciation
explosive
there.
Yeah. Trust me, I noticed this guy on film last year with the Colts, and I was intrigued. But like, what is your feel right now about the Bears' defensive front?
So I've planted my flag in the Montez Sweat camp. Like, I have been like hey, this guy's going to be back. He had a bad year according to his standards last year. He showed up for spring practice, which he doesn't always do. He was all the OTAs and minicamp. He didn't miss a single day of training camp. And also, like, this might be a Ben Johnson thing. Like, guys didn't take personal days. That was like not a thing at training camp. And Montez Sweat is probably a guy who you would expect to take a personal day here or there, or just a rest day, I should say. He was out there every day. He was wrecking havoc. I just feel good about the season he could have. Dio Dengbo is an interesting one because he's got the length. He's got the ability to pressure that just hasn't translated into sacks. Here's a fun fact for you, though, Alec. Behind those two, just looking at defensive ends, those guys have combined for 0 sacks last year. Like, there's
Daniel Hardy, Dominique Robinson.
Dom was a 5th-round pick a few years ago, came out of the scene like bat out of hell first game at a sack and a half, and I think he's only had 1 or 2 sacks since. So, but he's, to Dom Robinson's credit, he had a good spring in summer. So, but yeah, there's not a lot of depth there. I think they are really banking on Sweat and Odengbo, Grady Jarrett, Pro Bowler, and Gervon Dexter led the team in quarterback hits last year. He had a good camp. He is like, he's just total example of looks the part. So, and well that, these teams want to collapse the pocket from the interior if they can. And the Bears loaded up on the interior with Grady Jarrett and the second-round pick, Shamar Turner, who we have not seen all summer because he was hurt. So I don't know if he's ready. But yeah, the pass rush is a question mark. I mean, you can talk yourself into Montez Sweat getting double-digit sacks again, but you still have some questions there.
I thought it was very interesting. Just going back through the Bears' numbers last year, they were 32nd in defensive explosive play rate given up. I mean, so, it's just interesting to me. It's obviously probably why they added pass rush to try to get to the quarterback to prevent some of those deep developing routes. But, I mean, for me, it is going to be so much about that and then coverage. Like, can they stick to a lot of these Vikings pass catchers who dominate on the interior and in the intermediate area of the field? Like, I fully expect TJ Hockenson to be a potential, big-time piece for what happens on Monday night. So pretty intrigued by that. I would also ask you, I expect the Vikings to do a lot of running the football early and often to try to not cushion things around J.J. McCarthy, but just give him the best chance, in what is probably going to be a pretty muddy game on that field. Run defense, how you feeling about it? I mean, we are in the weeds, but how you feeling about the Bears' run defense?
So I should note that T.J. Edwards, starting linebacker, was not out there on Wednesday, and he left practice with an injury last week. So that is something to monitor, because you want to talk about drop-off. After him, it'd be Noah Sewell, who has not started an NFL game. You got Ruben Hippolyte, who's a 4th-round pick. That's who the Bears have at linebacker. So if Edwards can't go, if he's not full go, that's a concern for the run defense, certainly. Gervon Dexter, as good of a pass rusher as he is, run defense has not been his specialty. So I'm curious to see what that looks like, because that's kind of the next step to get him to becoming a dominant guy on the interior. I mean, Grady Jarrett can do it, certainly. I think the thing they like about Odengbo is how big he is and setting to the edge, things like that. But, yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, all this stuff about Justin Jefferson and rattling McCarthy, it all goes out the window if they can't stop the run. And they did not do a good job stopping the run last year. And we just, that's a very difficult thing to judge in camp. If they can do it.
This is a very in the weeds nugget that I uncovered because I'm nuts. But Dennis Allen barely played base personnel to 11 personnel. And the Vikings really like using 11 personnel with Josh Oliver as like a run blocking tight end. So I kind of wonder if they try to get the Bears in nickel, kind of lighter bodies, and then just try to rev them up, ram them on the front. We shall see. Have you recently started a Bears podcast where you've gone 12 minutes talking about run defense and coverage and not talking about Caleb and Ben Johnson? Can't imagine.
Who?
Right. Exactly.
This is why you are Alec Lewis of the Alec Lewis Show, because you know ball. And you know that Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson could do all that they want, but if you can't stop the run, it doesn't matter.
That's a great question. I mean, it really is. Describe for me what it has been like watching Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams work together since the spring.
It's been interesting. I think that we've seen moments of the two of them kind of going back and forth. Ben is he's a fiery guy. He demands a lot from his players, and Caleb Williams has invited that. And Caleb Williams not afraid to, shout back. And we've seen the two of them discuss plays that haven't worked out. And I think if you were solely judging what this is going to look like based on Caleb Williams' training camp stats, if you will, you would not feel good about this season. I just don't think you would, because you can sit there and you can look at the false starts, the delay games, the interceptions, the completion, kind of rough days completion percentage-wise for a coach that wants his quarterback completing 70% of the passes. However, a lot of that was by design. They wanted the training camp to be super difficult. They wanted Dennis Allen's defense to really challenge Caleb Williams. And then you saw some really nice things when they played the Bills. And the Chiefs game was a rough start, but they finished the half okay. So, I mean, Alec, you can go around the league, and I would argue that J.J. McCarthy's debut and the Caleb Williams-Ben Johnson marriage, I would say two of the top 5 most intriguing week 1 things in the entire league. Now,
I'd agree with you.
Obvious bias here, coming through the lens that we watch the teams that we cover in. But I just think that, both those things have such a variance. We know what Ben Johnson can do as a play caller. We know what Caleb Williams is capable of as a thrower. Now you put that together, and I'm you are going to see, based on what we saw in camp, a lot of Caleb Williams under center. You're going to see a lot of play action, and that is not something he did last year. It's not something he did at USC. It's something we saw a lot of in camp. It's something we obviously know Jared Goff did, and I think the thing that Ben Johnson is hoping for, the thing our Bears are hoping for, is if Caleb Williams can get that element down, he has this other element that he can run and he can throw on the move. So while Jared Goff was so good at some of those play action stuff and finding his guys in those deep over routes, they're thinking, well, could we get Caleb Williams to do this with pretty good collection of weapons? And, oh, by the way, if something breaks down, he'll escape and be able to make something magical happen, because that's kind of something that he does that few guys can do at his level. But you can't build the plane out of that, right? You have to be able to work in the system. So it's, watching them in camp and watching that all kind of work together, it was new for Caleb Williams. And so obviously there were going to be some growing pains.
I went back and rewatched Caleb versus Flores, the all 22 of that, and just both games from last season. And just everything you talked about kind of showed up. The athleticism and just the evasiveness, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, these guys did not miss tackles last year, and they were, lunging to try to grab him, and the athleticism was just unbelievable. There were also multiple plays that you probably remember of these two teams facing off last year, where Caleb boots out of the pocket, and he just feathers one down the sideline. You're like, how did he make that throw? Crazy, just crazy type of plays that keep things alive. My question is exactly what you're talking about. Is can he, if it is play action early, can he plant and fire accurately in rhythm? And can he see it? And it's probably just like with JJ McCarthy here, it's hard to get a feel for, can he do that with the bullets flying on Monday night in that environment in training camp? It just really is difficult to have a sense of a guy's ability to, make that work or not.
Yeah, the one thing Ben Johnson said earlier this week was, get the ball to your skill guys in space.
Yeah.
That has been an emphasis all summer. There have not been many deep balls from the Bears. One of the reasons you haven't seen a whole lot of training camp videos of oh my MG, Caleb Williams MVP, look at this 50-yard bomb to DJ Moore, because they haven't done it. They want this to be these short intermediate routes, and you have DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Colson Loveland, and Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. You want these guys catching the ball with room to run. So I think, and knowing what Brian Flores is going to probably throw at them, they want the ball out quick. You go back and watch the Bears game at Soldier Field against Flores, and that was that Thomas Brown's second game as play caller, first or second, and it was ball out quick, boom.
DJ Moore caught like 15 wide receiver screens in the games that I watch. I'm like, they're running this again, where he just takes a step, drifts back behind blockers. It's like they're throwing this to DJ Moore 20 times over the course. It was unbelievable.
Well, I think that the Bears are probably going to run a lot more wide receiver screens. The difference they hope is that like they'll be blocked up correctly and they will be schemed up correctly and they will actually prove to be more explosive than what they were doing last year as a necessity. But yeah, they want the ball out quick. They don't want, Caleb he said before, I believe, that like he likes to stay in the pocket. He wants to be a pocket quarterback. Like he's not trying to be, but he just happens to be really, really good if he needs to throw on the run. So I think the Bears would love to create a situation where he is to be able to sit in the quarterback and go 1, 2, 3. And we saw it here and there in camp. We saw it here and there last year, but not enough. And I don't know if he's going to have time with what Flores is doing, which is why obviously the Bears put the big investment in the offensive line this offseason.
I'm glad you went there. That was like, there's a couple things I want
knew.
to. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you come on the show as many times as you have. There is just that rapport that really benefits the listener and the viewer. That's how it works. Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson. How has this O-line looked in camp, and what do you expect from it against what is obviously probably the toughest test that they can begin with?
Yeah, I have not seen a whole lot of pressure up the gut against Caleb Williams this summer. I think those guys have held up pretty well. And I think so much of it is also mental. I remember sitting in the press box in Santa Clara when the Bears had like maybe their worst game of the year last year. 49ers, it was a drubbing. And it felt like Caleb Williams was exiting the pocket before he needed to. And I think there was just this... I knew he would never say it, but there was just this lack of trust, whether it was the call, the scheme, or the guys in front of him. Now he gets that ball in his hands, and he knows that he's behind an All-Pro in Joe Thuney, a Pro Bowler in Jonah Jackson, and Drew Dahlman, who was the top center available in free agency. And I think that there's just a comfort level that he's going to get to that he did not have last year. In addition to the fact that those guys are going to do a good job blocking. Now, you can twist it around and say Joe Thuney's 32. You could say Jonah Jackson has had injury issues and like what happened in LA. If Sean McVay is not happy with this guy, what's going on here. And Drew Dahlman hasn't necessarily started a ton of games. So you can still be a little skeptical about that, but it's so much better than it was last year. So I think that should make a massive difference, and it's going to make a big difference in the run game because, as you know, Ben Johnson wants to run the ball. He does not have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but he wants to run the ball. I think DeAndre Swift has been understandably overlooked and almost disregarded because last year just wasn't great. And then Bears fans saw what Saquon did with a new team, what Derrick Henry did with a new team, what Josh Jacobs did with a new team. They're like, well, our team paid DeAndre Swift this kind of money, and like, what is he doing? I get it, but I don't think he's going to be those guys, but I do think that he could have a better year this year with Ben Johnson.
First off, what about Braxton Jones at tackle?
Look, it is the proverbial weak link. The difference is when you are the weak link and the guy next to you is Joe Thuney and the guy next to him is Drew Dahlman, the guy next to him is Jonah Jackson, it just feels a little different than if Braxton Jones was the weak link and you had a lot of other questions on the line. I think Braxton Jones, when he's fully healthy and he's playing at his best, is a quality, above-average left tackle in this league. And he showed that as a rookie. He showed that until injuries kind of became a problem. The ankle thing was a serious injury, and like the Bears wanted someone to go grab this position. Like I believe that they were really hopeful that Ozzie Trapillo, the second-round pick, was just going to go grab that job. And it just was, the things were just moving too fast for him. And he looked better when they moved him back to the right side. So I don't know what that looks like for the long-term future. Theo Benedict came out of nowhere, Canadian guy, to make the team and really push Braxton Jones. But Braxton's got the experience, and that should matter. But yeah, that is going to be. You look at what the Vikings. I mean, you know full well what Minnesota can employ at those edge spots, and I'm sure they're going to attack Braxton Jones. Shoot, Alec, they could attack Darnell Wright, whose offensive line coach was very open earlier in the summer that Darnell Wright was not having the best training camp. I'm paraphrasing, but they wanted more from Darnell Wright, who's got the traits, but hasn't really put it together since his rookie year.
And Dallas Turner got Darnell Wright late last year in the game that the Bears played on. I was rewatching that clip, and just the Ben, it was like the flash of what Dallas Turner can be. My fascination with Ben Johnson against Brian Flores in this game, maybe above all else, is one of the things that has made these matchups so compelling over the last 2 years is each of these guys adapts on the fly so well in game, between drives, between quarters. And one of the reasons that they are able to adapt is because the player aptitude that Ben Johnson had in Detroit and that Brian Flores has here, to where those guys can take in information and apply it on the fly. One of my fascinations is, without the continuity that the Bears have had and with this new roster, do the players in Chicago have the aptitude and wherewithal to be able to apply on the fly what they're probably going to have to from an adjustment standpoint during the game? Like, that's for me, it's one of my in the weeds. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to tell it from the press box or assess it. Just curiosities with how this game could go and how this matchup could go.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier with Caleb, like, the goal from the coaching staff was to make training camp as hard as possible and throw a lot of crazy stuff at these guys and see how they reacted. And their hope is that will allow them to adapt. But we won't know until it happens, and you still don't really know how Caleb Williams is going to adjust. I do think that, like, the way that they can do those things Monday night versus the way they can do those things when these two teams meet again in mid-November is going to look a lot different. Like, I am trying to, give this thing some time. I think in Minnesota you're in a similar spot, right?
Same thing.
The Vikings are built to go to the Super Bowl right now. Like, I think if you look at that roster, you just have a giant question mark in the most important position in sports. How much leeway do you give a JJ McCarthy? And I think with Caleb Williams and the Bears, it's like, how much leeway do you allow this thing to marinate, allow this thing to grow? But you spent money on Joe Thuney and Grady Jarrett, and you have a lot of money poured into other spots. Like, you don't really have a ton of cap space. Like, what is this thing? What is the expectation here? I'm taking your micro X's and O's question, going a little big picture, because I do think these teams, I mean, obviously the Bears are not built like the Vikings right now, and this is a new coaching staff, but Ben Johnson's a phenomenal play caller. Like, it should look good, but even, it took a while with Jared Goff in Detroit also. So it's just a question of, like, how patient can everybody be? And I've been saying this since the schedule came out, Alec. Tuesday morning in our respective cities, like, whatever happens, the overreactions are going to be crazy. Like, I have thought to myself, if J.J. McCarthy comes into his hometown stadium and throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and outplays Caleb Williams, and the Vikings win on Ben Johnson's debut, I'm the talk radio in this town, it's going to be. And, oh, by the way, the Bears have to travel on a short week to Detroit to face the defending division champions, like, the next week. So it's from a narrative standpoint, like, and then you flip it. If Caleb looks phenomenal, yeah, right? If JJ throws 3 interceptions and just looks rattled and can't handle, and I do think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of JJ McCarthy's probably best qualities is the classic, the moment's not too big for him.
Well, he's played in the biggest moment you could possibly play to this point. Right. But you're exactly right. Like, if there are 3 interceptions, and if the Vikings can't run the ball, and if Ben Johnson does get the best of Brian Flores again, the sky will have fallen, and on Get Up and on First Take, it is going to be the topic of conversation of, he was overwhelmed, that maybe should they have signed X quarter, like, it is not ripe for long-term view and development of team over time. And both of these teams, to your point, are in positions to where that's the way they want to view it. Internally, like the Vikings view this as a long-term runway vision type situation. Over the course of this year, they want to grow, and it will just become complicated to do that if the reactions or when the reactions are as rash one way or another as they end up being.
Yeah, I almost tried to do a Minnesota accent for like what it would sound like on Minnesota talk radio, but that I don't think that would go over well with your listeners. I could try to do a Chicago one if things go badly for the Bears. I tell you what, this guy Caleb's not the answer. I've been saying all along it's Tyson Bagent. I think it's time to give Tyson Bagent a chance. He got the extension. He knows how to read the field, and I'm just done with Caleb. But if you can't beat the Vikings at home on Monday night, my friend, I think you got to go to the other quarterback.
I'm listening to Waddle and Sylvie. No, that's exceptional. All right, three quick things, then I'm going to get you out of here. One is near and dear to my heart. Luther Burden. He played at Missouri. He was an incredible recruit who kind of changed the course of that program. I know he's had some injury stuff. But with the ball in his hands, I've said this to friends, I've said this to, during draft time, with the ball in his hands, he is incredibly talented, and he's going to be hard to tackle. How much do you expect Luther to be a part of what they're doing offensively on Monday night?
Yeah, Monday night's a great question. Like long term, I see the skill. I mean, when he would catch a ball at practice and preseason, like you could see what he can do, and it's really impressive. Just that first step quickness and the elusiveness. And, obviously he went to what people call the Northwestern of the west of the Mississippi River. The thing is, Olamide Zaccheaus, OZ, as they call him, he had a phenomenal training camp. Preseason, he's got a great rapport with Caleb Williams. He's certainly got a lot more reps with Caleb Williams than Luther Burden did. So I would suspect that Zaccheaus is going to be more featured as a slot guy, certainly this week, than Burden. And Burden will kind of ease in a little bit, which I think that's going to be a tough thing for Luther Burden, just as we've gotten to know him a little bit. And the confidence that he has, it's a good thing, but I think there's going to have to be some patience because he can do a lot of great things. But right now, Zaccheaus has kind of earned the reps that I would expect him to get in that spot based on what we've seen over the past 2 months.
Zaccheaus is he stands out on film when you're watching it. Like that guy is a very interesting player, and the Vikings secondary, as the people listening and watching this know, I mean, it's a question mark going into this game. Is Harrison Smith going to be available? If he's not available, is Jay Ward playing at safety? The cornerback position is a question mark in general. The last two things for you. So how do you feel about the tight ends, Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet? And then the most in-the-weeds thing I could possibly ask you, running backs in pass protection is massive always against Brian Flores. Can DeAndre Swift or Roschon Johnson handle that? So you could take both those wherever paths you want to take them, but it's just two critical parts of the game, in my opinion.
Colson Loveland looks the part. Rookie tight end, number 10 pick. I liked the pick when it happened because I watched him a little bit. I kind of knew what he's capable of. I knew what Ben Johnson was capable of. I could see the way the board was falling. That was maybe going to be just the best option for these guys, and he's got the length, he's got the quickness. Like the blocking we'll see, but in the preseason he blocked pretty well. I'm very I think how they employ Loveland and Kmet together. Ben Johnson talks a lot about how he started his career in New England and he watched what the Patriots did at tight end. And that has certainly been a big influence on him. It was a position he coached. We saw what Sam Laporta did. So, yeah, that could be a big part of the game as a quarterback's best friend when you've got 2 6'6" guys with those catch radiuses over the middle. And then running back pass protection, Rutgers rookie Kyle Monangai, the 7th-round pick. He could be the third down back. I don't know. Roschon Johnson was not out there on Wednesday. He's been battling an injury for the past couple weeks at camp. He obviously has the more experience, but Monunga had a really good camp. I don't know if he's ready for that kind of role.
Rookie running back with Ivan Pace screaming at him and blitzers coming from everywhere seems intriguing.
And DeAndre Swift got the experience, so maybe they just give him the full workload if Roschon Johnson isn't 100%. And Swift can handle it. But Roschon is probably the better pass protector. I just don't know what his status is going to be. So that is fascinating. You're right, because you need your running backs to not only make the block, but know who they are supposed to block, which is a big deal. So that is yes, it is in the weeds, Alec, but I think that's an important X factor to consider.
Thank you for saying that. Are you excited?
Man, I was like in the open locker room yesterday, and I was just like, we just need a game, man. Like
it's like I can't really do much more. I'm
watching all the cameras run over to Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson was interesting. Obviously, that was important. But they're running over here, and they're running over there, and they're running over here, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, should I be talking to this guy or this guy? I'm like, give me a game. Let's have a game that we can break down and talk about and. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I will say the last time I covered a primetime opener in Chicago, it was Bears Packers 2019. The 100. It was the NFL put it as a Thursday night opener because it was the 100 NFL 100, and you have the oldest rivalry and all that stuff. Sorry, Bears people like it's the longest running rivalry. Technically, the oldest rivalry is Bears Cardinals.
Thanks for getting that right.
Certain people like that to be corrected. The Bears forced a 3-and-out on the opening drive, and the place was electric. Like Rodgers was going to the sideline, and the Bears scored 3 points that night.
It's a classic. It's a classic.
They lost 10-3. It was like a total wake-up call that we spent all summer being like, oh, it's okay that Mitch Trubisky's throwing these interceptions. Oh, the offense will work itself out. And then it was like, oh, no, there's a serious problem here. I don't expect that to have Monday night, but I bring that game up because I just remember how it felt in that stadium, walking up to the stadium in the city. It's not, I don't think it's at that level just because the expectations are a little different. Like people in 2019 were like, oh, this team's going to win the division. They did not, by the way. I think, but the buzz is awesome. I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be fun for fans to be able to not only hear Joe Buck on the call, but they can download the podcast Breaking In with Kevin Fishbain and hear about Joe Buck's early career. And he'll give a little take on the game as well.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for plugging it. I'll do it in the intro and the outro. So for you to do it a couple of times too. Thanks for hopping on. We'll have you a couple more times and try to keep you in the lead of the external outside of Minnesota Alec Lewis show guest count. I know it means a lot to you. I can tell just by the energy in your voice. So looking forward to seeing you if I see you before you get to the press box at 7 a.m. on Monday.
It's always a pleasure to be on your show, Alec. Keep up the good work, and I will see you Monday night.
That'll do it for episode 110 of the Alec Lewis Show. Kevin's podcast, Breaking In. He talks to, the best sports media members really in the industry about how they got into this business. So if you're fascinated by this job, what we do, how we get to be where we are, I'm going to put his YouTube channel and his podcast in the description. You can go check that out. He puts a lot of work into it, cares a lot about it. So I do highly recommend it as much as we joke about it. Cannot wait for Monday night. It's going to be a blast. Anything and everything that you guys want to know, put it in the comments section. Send me questions on Twitter at Alec_Lewis. May do a pregame Instagram live Q&A from Soldier Field on Monday night. So you can follow us on Instagram at Alec Lewis Show. And then if you're new here, you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can rate and review and do all that good stuff. But yeah, go check out Stories at The Athletic. Keep locked in next week for the podcast that we do. And with that, I will let you guys enjoy what should be a heck of a weekend from a college football and football perspective. And we will talk to you guys after Monday night very, very soon.